Hello from an undisclosed location in Scotland. I'm in a hotel room, and this morning was one of those mornings when I woke up, looked around, and thought, where the hell am I? It does happen occasionally in this job, but this job is exciting because you don't always know where you're going to end up or who you're going to meet, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. I am in Scotland actually because I'm going to meet a very high profile public figure. I'm going to meet them for tea and for dinner. I'm going to have some time with them to be able to get to know them and speak to them properly. It's all off the record, and I agree to that, even though I am a reporter and, it's all about news and reporting the news, because it's important to get to know the people that I'm reporting on regularly and to try to get into their minds a bit so I can explain why they make the decisions that they do and perhaps suggest why they're reacting in the way that they are. And the reality is that people are much more relaxed, obviously, if they know that there isn't a camera on them and I'm recording everything that they say, so they can speak more freely and I'll get to know them a bit better. So I do agree to these things occasionally if the figure is important enough and high profile enough, or that I really want to get their perspective. I do sometimes complain that this job isn't as glamorous as it seems, but actually this week that isn't true. Earlier this week I was at the US Embassy, the spectacular US Embassy, having drinks with Woody Johnson, who's the ambassador to the UK. And he's very close to Donald Trump. So that was a really interesting conversation as well, because I was able to get into Donald Trump's mind a bit and sort of see how he works a bit. Again, it was off the record, so I can't tell you too much about it, but it was useful. And I'm also in discussions about flying over to Monaco at some point this month to meet and interview a Hollywood A-lister. So yes, this job is glamorous sometimes, but not all the time. Full disclosure there for you anyway about what I've been doing at the moment. And I'm going to talk to you in this podcast actually about possibly the ultimate first world problem, which is going along to events like this, or networking events generally, the sort of things that you might go to with work or through networking or socially as well, those sorts of events that feel like networking. And I just want to tell you that whilst people think I'm a natural at these, and I sometimes might look like I am because I'm on TV, it's not true actually, because in a TV studio I'm in front of a camera. In my mind I'm speaking to one viewer at home or in the office or travelling somewhere, and if I do see people coming in and out of the studio, they're part of my team and I know them really well. So going in front of a physical audience actually is very different, and I've had to find my own way of coping with that. And what I will say to you is that if you get nervous in those situations, that actually I go to quite a lot of these events and I don't think anyone ever gets entirely comfortable with them. I think what you have is a situation where if the stakes are high, for example, it's a really important network for you to get into and to be involved in, then actually people do get more and more nervous because they feel more and more pressure. And I don't think anyone is exempt from that. You can even put it up to the level of heads of state, and I've seen them get nervous when they're at G7 meetings, for example, or big meetings of world leaders where they're with their counterparts and they want to impress them and they want to come across well, and they come across as nervous too. It's that feeling, your heart starts pounding, butterflies in your stomach, you get a dry mouth, sweating, blushing. You're recognizing what I'm talking about here. You might go to the loo, you might go to the loo again. It's that sort of thing. It's that feeling actually that you want to just go home sometimes. And what that is actually it's a natural inbuilt system, fight or flight. It's your body reacting instinctively to a threat. And there's a paranoia that comes with that. You think that everyone's looking at you. You might think that they're judging you, thinking you're stupid or that you're not coming across well. But what I will say is that in my experience, you find that actually people aren't as interested in you as you think. It's actually a bit of arrogance on your part. They're far more worried about how they're coming across in that situation. And actually, if you think about your nervousness, it's much more apparent to you than it is to other people. And actually, I wonder, if they did notice you were nervous, is that bad? I think that people have some sympathy for people that look nervous, which you might not want. You might not want sympathy from other people. But if you break through that and get on with the day, there's actually, I think, something quite endearing about that. People like to see someone looking nervous and overcoming that hurdle and moving through the day. And actually, it can be quite connective. I think people do judge you when they first meet you, but you shouldn't assume that they're judging you negatively. They might be judging you positively, or the jury might be out until they actually meet you. So the secret there is to throw yourself into the event and show some character, and then people want to find out more about you, and actually they might come and introduce themselves to you. I think the secret there is to perhaps move through the event, try to pick out some faces that you know, make a beeline towards them, then you've got a base. But if you don't see anyone you recognise, then keep moving through, hold your head up, smile, look approachable, because no one's going to come up to you if you don't look approachable, if you're looking down or you're using your phone or you're looking particularly awkward. And ideally, obviously, you might see someone that you know, you can go over and chat to them, or someone might come up to you, or you might see someone who you know, but they might not know you, in which case the secret really is just to go up to them, introduce yourself, explain how you know the host, and then try to find some common ground with them. And you might know a bit about them. It's worth doing some research if it's someone that you really want to meet there. Do some research beforehand so you can find some common ground and go into that. It might be a person you both know, a place you both know, or it might just be the room that you're in. I mean, that's the ultimate common ground. When I was at the US Embassy, I actually talked about what a spectacular building it was, because it really was. And that allowed us to get the conversation going, and then we can find some more common ground and pursue that. But really, the thing that you're looking to do at a networking event is just to make a connection, find some rapport, perhaps tell a good story, try to be remembered. So if you show some emotion and some personality, then they'll remember you the next day. They won't necessarily remember what you said, but they will remember how you came across and how you made them feel. And that's the secret there. Don't let it tip into pitching anything or becoming too personal, because then you might risk the connection. You're just looking for a connection with a person and perhaps a way of following up with them the next day. That's really the secret to these types of events. It's always worth having a couple of lines with you, by the way, if you get asked a question about what you do. It's very surprising the amount of people that don't think about this before an event, but it's really important to think about, because it's your opportunity to sell yourself a bit, make yourself relevant to that person, and give some credibility to that person, give them a reason to speak to you. I'm often asked how you get out of a situation where you're speaking to someone that might not be that interesting, but more to the point, you might see someone more interesting over their shoulder. How do you get yourself out of that situation? And what I'd say there is, for a start, stop looking over their shoulder, because people hate that. All you need to do is explain to them that there's someone you have seen and you're keen to meet them, and you want to go over and see them, and that you enjoyed speaking to the person you're there with now. Where people often go wrong with that is they don't give a reason for why they're moving on, and that's the only time you really insult people, if you just make it feel as if you're moving on because you don't want to be with them. Give a proactive reason for you moving on to the next person. If that person you're speaking to is already speaking to someone, then that's fine. Give them a bit of time to chat, but it is a networking event. People are expected to circulate, so it's fine to butt in and speak to the person you're interested in. But if you do that, then make sure you're including the whole group in the conversation, because it's just rude to butt in and take over the conversation, if you like. You've got to involve everyone in it. I think the way to think about networking events is that if you go into them with a positive frame of mind, I know that's easier said than done, but actually if you think about it, the symptoms of nervousness are very similar to the symptoms of excitedness, if I can call it that. So if you reinterpret your nerves and those feelings as excitement, then you change your mindset. You start expecting a positive outcome instead of a negative outcome, and that changes the way you come across and actually allows you to enjoy the evening. So it's about going in with a positive attitude, moving around the room, and perhaps peppering it with memories of you, and then actually just going home, because you don't want to outstay your welcome. And that applies to when you're chatting to people as well. If there's anything sort of awkward, it's when you're lingering. Have a good conversation and move on, and leave these memories of you in the room, which you can follow up later with the key people that you were there to meet. So hopefully that helps a bit. Good luck. I say that on the premise that you create your own luck. So you need to put yourself out there and take advantage of the opportunities that come with that. And that does actually mean biting the bullet, facing your fear about going into the room where you don't know anyone there.